being nominated in a small with all of your peers, like by your peers, it's huge. And, you know, most people don't expect it or don't go into this field expecting the kind of recognition. But when you get it, it really does. It changes your life. You know, the more, the merrier that gets spotlighted. It's just like,
right.
You know,
anyway, Fran Drescher's going to get an email from me about this or
you
someone
could probably change the, you could probably change the tides on this.
It just feels like really important to me.
Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I am Jack Smart, the senior film writer at the AV Club. And if you're interested in programming like this from the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our YouTube channel. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our panel of Emmy-nominated actors, Sarah Paulson and Amanda Seyfried. How are you both?
We're here, you know?
Yeah,
we're here. That's all we know.
I do know. Congratulations on your Emmy nominations. This is really huge.
Thanks. It's I can't believe I'm like in a panel with you.
Oh my God.
Isn't that insane? Like just you watch somebody.
You remember the text message I sent to you through your husband about this performance, where I was just like, this needs to be discussed. And I tried to write you on Instagram and got no reply, guys. If you go to your Instagram, you're going to see a message from me from like whenever the show first came on. Yeah.
That happened once to me. I went and I guess there's a general part that I never checked because it can be scary to look.
Yes.
And I know people can get in trouble with that one. Yes. So I once checked a while back and Kate Upton had sent me a message from 7 years prior.
Yeah. You're like, oh.
Wow, I probably shouldn't go in here. I wrote back and then, so weird because I follow you. So it's weird. You know, the situations of Vortex.
Yeah, it's really true.
Well, thanks. No, I just listened to be in your, I've been watching you. I've been watching you for a long time. And whatever, I'm you know, I'm in a category with you. So it's it does mean, I mean, you are sorry. I don't know.
you're very, I'm like, wow, Amanda Seyfried.
But no, are you kidding? I've only gotten one opportunity to like do something like you challenge yourself beyond every time. You don't ever take from my experience watching you don't ever take anything lightly. And you're also you know, your craft, you're the most professional and the most thoughtful. I don't know your process, but I think I do from watching and from an actor's point of view, watching you. So, you know, this was my first opportunity to tackle something that I think you tackle every time, and you always run it home. And so I feel like in some small part, maybe I ran this home. And that's why I get to, you know, do these things with you anyway.
No, that is so great. And in fact, we are totally going to dig into the process and the craft and to the extent that you both want to reveal your actorly secrets. Yeah, I'm here to dig them out of you. Let's start with these parts. I mean, I'm going to call them characters. Do we call them, right? First question, are they characters or are they?
They all are every time, but I think in this way, yes, I think it's more so than usual, perhaps.
Interesting. Okay.
There's a transformational component, I think, to both of
the storytelling component.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. The fictional. I mean, we'll get to these gray areas we'll get to the heart of a biographical performance. But first, like just kind of on paper or objectively, describe your character. How would you explain your character to somebody who doesn't know anything about this project? Who would like to go first?
You mean in some sort of succinct, soundbite-ish way of communicating it? I wouldn't know how to. I wouldn't know. I mean, this will probably be not the most actressy thing I'll say, and I don't mean actressy as a pejorative, but it often is sort of besmirched this idea of like, we have opinions or thoughts, or we give a shit about what we do and it matters to us. And why are we so precious and all these other things? It's like, oh, I don't know. It's just my life and my work and the way I spend my time away from the people I care about. And so shouldn't it matter to me more than, almost anything, not in terms of other people's opinions about it, but in terms of what it means to me. So, I didn't mean to sort of be pontificating, but I do feel like I would not know how to distill it, other than to say that I guess Linda Tripp is utterly human and therefore wildly flawed and her own worst enemy, probably, and just a desperate person in a lot of ways, in a circumstance, as she would say, not of her own making, even though I may beg to differ about that. But anyway, I'm not really saying anything important. It's just, I wouldn't know how, can you do that, Amanda? Could you give us
what's incredibly important is everything you said. And I agree. The whole point of telling these stories in this way is because these people are human, and society has such an opinion on these people. Of course, everybody's more complicated than that. And that's why we dig in. That's why it's so not necessary, but it feels like the right thing to do, because these stories are so bizarre, but human at their center. Obviously, like that's the nuts and bolts of it. And if I were to describe Elizabeth, I would say that she's also desperate. I think that's kind of why these people get in these situations. She's also, entitled and impulsive and fearless in a way, blind in a way that allowed her to succeed. It's so funny how those things. I walk through the world with just truth and curiosity, and less so did she.
Yeah.
But look where, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna change the world at that level. I'd like to, well, hopefully change somebody's perspective on something as an actor, but it's wild to watch somebody walk through the world that way. They're likely to, walk into glass, but look what they can do.
Yes.
Before they do that.
Yeah. We are talking about two people who probably both of the stories are sort of at the most extreme point in both of their lives, right? So it's like, I think that allows for you as an actor, I can say for me anyway, to feel, I don't know, I may be jumping ahead to a question about process that may or may not come, but like in the spirit of Amanda and I sort of having this conversation together, because I am so interested in this, but like, have you played a real person before? Is this the first time you're playing? Oh no, you did play a real person in where you got nominated for a fucking Oscar. Was that a real person?
Marion Davies.
A real person, Marion Davies. So like, but for me, I feel like when that happens, when you're creating something that is on the page, a writer's invention, and then it becomes the actors, the collaboration of that, I often feel a little like untethered and a little bit wayward, because I'm like, well, anything goes here. Anything could happen. So it's up to me and the writer and the directors to figure out what that ends up looking like. But when you have a real person and you have facts, like immovable realities that were part of this person's experience, somehow for me, I feel like I'm looking at like zooming out and looking at like the architecture of a building. And it's like having a blueprint and knowing, okay, these are where the walls are, and this is just what it is, and trying to figure out how to navigate inside of it within the parameters of what I know to be true about the character without my own like noise, like of me trying to figure out, because I'm often like, well, will this be good? And, you get your own ego gets involved in it. Whereas somehow when you're playing a real person, it's like someone becomes bigger than you. And you're kind of just like, I can't explain it. Does this happen to you? Because it's just like a wild phenomenon where I'm like, I feel freer doing this thing where there are more rules about who she was that are not up for but I was like, I feel, and I wonder if that's why my work is better. Do you know what I mean? Or like interesting to someone is that like,
yeah,
you know, that there's freedom in it. There's like a weird expansion of like, oh, and it seems like it would be the opposite.
It seems like it'd be harder.
Like it'd be harder.
Yeah, because there are the responsibilities, of course. And one, in on one side of things, it's like you want to do it right. You want people to believe you in the role. It's to overcome that, the ego stuff, the insecurity of that, and then to try to put it into play and get people on the ride with you. But then there's the other side of where you're building on something that already exists. So therefore, a lot of the work is already done in that you don't have to create this whole backstory. It's already there. And if you're us, we can watch these people.
Mm-hmm.
And like with Marion Davies, I will say I had no footage of who she was in life. So I was taking from the script and from the direction and I was playing a part.
When it's David Fincher, I'm kind of like, just tell me what to do and where to be, and it's everything. Yes, whatever.
Exactly. You want like an essence, but with these women, there was so much freedom, and I think that's why I had so much more fun than I ever had in my entire life. And I always watched you and thought, God, what a journey and what a thing to like conquer. And it always seems like you're having the time of your life. I mean, it just, whatever it is, you're fully encapsulating it. And it seems like a lot of fun, but it always seemed really scary. And now that I've done it in this way, I'm like, it's more of a character than I've ever played. I want to know somebody else like that. The fears, and especially when you have more months to do it. I had 4 months as opposed to 2. It is more freedom. It just is. It doesn't make sense at first. When you do it, it's like, it's not less work. It's just different work.
Just different kind of work. That's exactly right. That's
more restrictions, more structure, more rules. And in the case of, and yeah, that gives you more creativity or more freedom. Is one of you've already answered so many of my questions, but in terms of like the big question is like, how do you play a real person, right? Like that's what we're really talking about. But the more granular is like, is one of the points of data, is one of these maybe parameters, what you touched on, Amanda, which is the public perception about these people. How much do you think it's your job as an actor, in this case, of the case of these two characters, to correct or to challenge or to, I mean, you mentioned this is human, you're making a human character, right? How much of that is a factor? Factoring in public opinion.
I feel like the answer should be, it shouldn't matter, but the reason we're here is because that's what happened. And at the end of the day, all my job was to help tell a story about a human as opposed to someone who is infamous and someone who is all the other things that she's been described as. And therefore try to get in their head as much as possible. And then Liz Merriweather, who wrote it all with her incredible team of writers, just like helped me get in there because she wrote the most awkward scenes I've ever seen written. And I was like, okay, I feel her. Like there's a lot of compassion to be had when you see someone from that angle. You know?
Compassion, yes.
That's the name of the game here.
Compassion is the tool. Compassion is the vessel. I don't know, the way in.
Yeah.
Sarah, would you agree?
Always. I mean, I feel like, you know, this is not going to be the first time I've said this publicly, so it's sort of boring and someone might want to fast forward this section, but or just click off whatever one does thing. But like I worked with Steve McQueen, and when we did 12 Years a Slave, he said to me, and I was playing a really horrible woman, and he said to me, you know, you must not, you are forbidden to judge her. Because if you do, you are going to be playing her from the vantage point of wanting sympathy or some kind of softness to be sent your way from an audience. And if you do that, then you are not serving the story, which is what my job was to do, is to be, I was a small part of that movie. It's like being a buttress and helping hold a building up. It's like, wasn't about me, but like as an actor, and I've said this before also, it's so boring. I have no new information, but I know actresses who turned down the part because they didn't want to play someone so awful. And I remember being so struck by that, these actresses that I respected, and I thought, that's so odd to me. Like, maybe because have been lucky in that I've never had to worry about like my brand or whatever it is that people talk about, of like, what do you represent? And I'm like, I just would really like the opportunity to keep acting. I would really like the opportunity to, without judgment, try to portray human behavior in a way that, as Amanda said earlier, allows maybe even just a tiny moment of someone to, a little bit of grace for a person, or a moment of perspective that they maybe didn't have. I mean, I certainly can't defend a lot of the things that Linda Tripp did, but what I can say is that I know in my bones, and I don't have any proof of this, but I know in my bones that it was something that was like beyond her control. It's like there's a limit to what she was able to stop herself from doing. And I do believe that she believed with every fiber of her being that Monica Lewinsky was being abused by the president of the United States, and that someone had to do something about it. Now, whether or not you want to be the person to do that, to make that stop publicly, because you have your own need to matter and to have done something meaningful in your life, and because you have felt passed over, and all these other psychological things that contribute to making these wild choices. But it doesn't serve me, and I don't think it serves the audience, for me to sit there and try to find a way to make you care about her. That's not my job.
Okay.
Not my job. My only job is to it's not to humanize her. It's just to try to be a human being. And by being, not showing, doing, but just by trying to be, you are allowing a person as an audience member to, and it does require a little bit more from an audience member. It's a little bit more of an interactive experience. Yeah. Like, I do need you to kind of like pay attention and imagine if you were vilified for doing something that you did on your worst day and your worst moment, and you could never live it down. I wouldn't want that. I don't think I would have done what Linda did, because I like to imagine I wouldn't have betrayed a friend that way. But I've done things in my life I'm not proud of. And if they had been put on a public, I don't know, in the middle of the town square to be discussed, and it would be horrible to me. And again, I'm not trying to make excuses for her. Anyway, I don't remember what your question was anymore. Now I'm just like blithering on, and I apologize.
No, the blithering on is perfect.
It's all important. It's all coming from your mind, and I can't speak. It's what, you have a point, you know what I mean? We want to hear it. So it's, no blithering. I feel like to watch someone exist in this in context, it's like context, this is what these shows are about. And we want to, like you said, like, it's not your job to humanize, but to be a human. It's just like to watch someone exist from another angle can be everything.
Totally.
Which is why I think as for me, when I'm fighting with somebody, usually my husband, or it's usually just him. No, I'm so desperate to be understood. I also feel like, wow, how lucky are these people walking around? Like, we're trying to understand them, or at least we're giving a opportunity for the public to understand them differently. I mean, do they deserve it or not? Who knows? But it's fascinating enough to.
Yeah. And I think when it's done well, and I don't mean it from a performance standpoint, but when something is affecting an audience member in so much that it allows you to even for a second question the way you might have behaved, or how you are so quick to perceive something in one particular way, and then realize that maybe you didn't consider the other side. We're living in a particular time in our country's history, which is really terrifying. And I sort of feel like responses to shows like this, or women like this, characters like this, who one could argue on the face of it have some tiny droplets of villainous behavior, self-centered motivations, and, you know, self-serving, you know, this. But I imagine I know for me, and I am quite confident for Amanda, there's a lot more to it than that. And so an opportunity just to consider someone else's experience, given where we are right now in our country globally, is a sort of interesting psychological opportunity if people are willing to do it, which I think does demand a little bit more from a viewer.
Yes.
And that's also really interesting too, because a lot of people just want to like click, shut out. They don't want to sort of have an opportunity to think. They're not interested in that kind of stuff, which is why some of the stuff that I want to see, and I bet Amanda wants to see, don't get made, or they, you know what I mean? And why we're all like gobbling up the stuff that is like, because you're just like, oh, give me some, you know, I don't want to see something else blow up, and I don't want to see some other, you know, I want to watch people behave.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I feel like with both of these performances, and maybe in general, this is a job description of the actor, is to, as you've both been saying, take this audience member further along down the path of, for example, Sarah, you describe, what would you do if it was on your worst day and the entire country was paying attention to you? I'm suddenly, by the power of this storytelling, I'm one step further to understanding that and to having that little bit of an empathetic thing. So to that point, yes, morality, judgment, it's sort of beside the point, right? It's certainly not part of your job description.
It doesn't feel like it helps the work to me at all. And
I don't want to go to work thinking like, how do I work?
Yeah.
Like, how you can't control you gotta keep in your lane. And it's like, for us, it's like, it's already a lot of,
yes, I know.
Emotional, psychological, like you got to be in the zone. So it's like, of course, I mean, to add that to the list, it's just, I so quickly, I realized when I did take the role, I realized that I had to get rid of the idea that the voice was going to be or sound exactly.
I wanted to ask you about that. I did, because I wondered if it made you, I wonder if like, did it make you almost not want to do it? Did you think like, did you ever also think, can I do this without doing the voice? I'm just curious, like, how many things did you think about shedding versus keeping, you know, because sometimes I think if you did every single behavior that the person did, it's a little bit, it can be overwhelming too. And I thought what you did was such this like beautiful modulation of like, it was just like, I just thought it was so deftly done that I was just like, what? This is, I mean, I have goosebumps thinking about it. It was really something. So I just wondered, was it like, you know, did you have to consider how much of it to bring forward, or were you not thinking of it in that way?
It was, I had to consider in a big way as soon as I committed, because I knew that I would just overwhelm myself to the point of failing myself. And so I was like, I decided very early on that I was not going to try to match her pitch and her, that frequency level that I can't hit that. I'm limited anyway. Like I knew I couldn't, and I knew I was going to drive myself crazy. And I also knew that I was playing somebody who's as complicated as anybody and you know, did not have a lot of fans. And I knew that it was not my job to win people over. I knew it was just my job to give context or show her in her exist, right? Like you said, exist, and be a human being walking down the street with this story written for this project. And it was like, as soon as I let myself go, I was just felt like there was so much more freedom to do the things I could do and do the things I did feel like I could capture, which is movement, everything. Wow. What a difference hips, like pulling in your hips makes. Like what for yourself.
Did you work with a person who helped you figure this stuff out?
No, I just decided with Michael Showalter and Liz Merriweather and Catherine Pope, who was producing it. Michael directed, Liz wrote it, that it was just going to be my, I was going to really capitalize on my own bad posture and walk with my hips pulled in. So my legs were a little bit wider. I almost feel like the way she walked was deliberate as well. And I know that I walked it in a way that's very deliberate when I'm walking away from a group of men, or I try to, it's being a woman in the world, you know, you just gotta become nothing. But I think there's a psychology I feel like I shared with her in some ways. And I talked to them about it and it felt really right. And I was like, great, this feels right. This is how I'm going to do this. Became second nature. And with the voice, I know how to make my mouth sound like hers, and I understand her cadence because I studied it enough. So there you go. It's like a song.
Yeah. I bet as a singer, I was thinking about this too when I was watching you. I was like, I bet because of your beautiful voice too, that you must have like, there's probably something that if I like try to do it, I have a terrible singing voice. I wonder if some of it entered your brain in a particular way that was like really unique to your skills. Like it's really
maybe, I don't know.
Interesting. I had to work with someone for a very long time to get Linda's walk and to do like her voice and all of this stuff. So I was like, I was sure that you worked with some like amazing movement person to help you do that walk stuff. It was just amazing. It was amazing.
I don't.
Oh yeah, you were like.
I was overthinking it at a point, and I thought about, because I was overthinking, I thought about talking to someone, hiring somebody, and then.
So good.
Thanks. I think that train left this. I was so focused on, I was so terrified still of my voice in the way I was going to do it that I think I focused more on that, and maybe because I didn't think about it so much, and it was just very streamlined for me in my head. Because I've been working with Emmy Rossum, who worked with a movement coach for Angeline, and
that's the same woman I worked with. Because
really,
yeah.
I was wondering about who she worked with, because the way you speak and the way you walk can change everything for yourself.
Totally. When
you go to work. So I feel like I'm missing a piece that you
didn't need it, sister. That's the thing that's so amazing. It's like you didn't need it.
But maybe it's one of those roles that you feel like there's certain roles I just don't think I can do. And I think maybe I was like born to play somebody like Elizabeth because of.
I think that's really, I appreciate your humility, but I just would like to say that I don't agree with you. Because I'm saying, I think your talent, like that, what it does is it erases your contribution from a talent standpoint and makes it mostly about your essence as opposed to what you did with. I'm telling you that there is I'm sure plenty of people could have done it and would have been great. If you want to say that, like, it's partly and I understand exactly what you're saying. I just don't like the narrative of the erasure of your thing. Yeah. Your acting was very extraordinary. So like that to me, I am not saying that I do believe often that one's essence, it can be the difference between like, the reason I probably was good as Marcia Clark is that I just understood her intrinsically in my body. There's no way that I could explain it. I couldn't spell it out for you in a way that would make any sense. I just knew. I knew her. And so maybe to some degree, I would say that, but if that's sort of what you're saying, but my argument is, and the value, I think what's important about just a lovely opportunity for me to tell you this is like, this is no joke. What you did was no joke. And that to me is about your talent, not just your own, personal makeup. Your talent is what made it the extraordinary performance that it is. I'm telling you, I know what I know about this. I do like your words. I don't take them lightly. Especially you, I'm so glad you saw what you saw, because really did.
Sometimes
I'm not the only one where you got nominated for an Emmy. I don't know if you know that.
What?
Got nominated for an Emmy. I wasn't sure if you knew that happened. You got nominated because everyone thinks you're great. Yeah, that's what happened.
Feels really. I got nominated alongside you. Also, you know who else is freaking me out?
Who?
Toni Collette.
Oh, I know.
So I just like. Also, another person who I've been watching for years, who also is a chameleon. Anytime you choose a role, Sarah, you know, from the audience probably knows this too, but I, as an actor, you know that you're going to take the whole thing and run with it. And that's the same, I feel the same way. She does it differently, but I feel the same way about her. I don't know her process, but she is another one of those actors that I've watched that I'm always surprised by her still, no matter what she's playing. But I feel it's pretty grand. It's pretty grand.
It's a pretty lovely thing. I think I do kind of think when you look at the women in the category, and I wish some of them were here too, just because it'd be nice to be able to tell them how wonderful they all are.
Also, yes,
you know what I mean. But like, you know, it's no small thing. Like the work that is happening in this group of women, and most of them, except for I think Margaret Qualley, playing real people, which is also sort of fascinating too. Yes. You know.
It's like the summer of, or not the summer, but it feels like the summer of
totally
true crime.
And like women, complicated women, you know, it's really kind of special thing to be part of, I think.
It is. Yeah, it is. And I'm very new to this. I'm very new to the this process of like, I do what I do. Again, I just want to work. I want longevity. I definitely want to die on set.
Yeah.
Love that.
Doing fun things. And I know that it's important to like change it up.
Yeah.
And I've always tried to change it up. And then, and I feel like I was always just really glad about the work, the jobs I got and the work that I got to do. Of course, there was always a part of me that was like, man, it would be nice to play so-and-so, or,
Totally.
I even thought about that when Kate McKinnon was going to play Elizabeth Holmes. I was like, man, that'd be fun. I probably do that, but you know what I mean? And because it was my first time I've ever been a part of an awards circuit, which is, like it's a
thing.
Vortex that you get to talk about this thing that hopefully you're proud of for 1 million minutes. And I'm just used to doing a junket and going home and being done with it.
Yeah.
So I'm new to this, and it's it feels the opportunities that come from these things are just so great. And this job came from the Mank nomination. Did you ever do you know specifically which jobs that you get like overnight? No consideration. They just call you like, she's the person for this job because of certain nominations and because of the acclaim that you've got.
Which is why this is like actually a thing, like I'm happy to bring it up here, but it's something I actually want to write to Fran Drescher about, or whomever I'm supposed to write about, because I feel to this point, supporting actor is not being acknowledged enough within our union at the SAG Awards. This is really important.
Yes.
You have people whose lives could change overnight, to Amanda's point, who get job opportunities, people who have been around forever, who can't possibly break into a category with leading performances from Cate Blanchett and Kate Winslet and everyone and her mother. And you have like, it's so interesting that within our own union, we don't have that sort of support. It's one thing if the Golden Globes put like every supporting performance from miniseries, movies, television series, all in one thing, but it's a real, like, it's like a disqualifier for like the real, I used this term before, but this idea of like the support, when you really think about what it means, is supporting performance. The building cannot stand without it. So it's like this idea of like an opportunity that comes from these awards and these nominations and these opportunities, which just puts, people, puts you in front of people that then gives you opportunity. It's really like, and like that, a person who goes from not having any work to getting this one thing that happened to hit, and then like, all of a sudden you have a career because of it. It's really wild. So,
and you can ride on it for so long too. It's
true. It's
so
really
what it takes to get there for a lot of people to get to being nominated in a small with all of your peers, like by your peers, it's huge. And most people don't expect it or don't go into this field expecting the kind of recognition, but when you get it, it really does. It changes your life. The more, the merrier that gets spotlighted. It's just like,
right.
Anyway,
Fran Drescher is going to get an email from me about this. Or
You
someone
could probably change the, you could probably change the tides on
It
this.
just feels like really important to me. There are actors
And
who
there's so much TV.
and there's so much television. I'm not even talking about just television. I'm talking about movies. I'm talking about everything. Like, you have an actor who's been working forever, who finally gets their breakout thing, and they can't break into that category within our own celebratory moment for our own group of actors. It would just, and it could literally change their life forever, financially and otherwise. Opportunity, which is the main thing that this does. This kind of acknowledgement and this kind of recognition provides opportunity. And that opportunity is all someone like Amanda and I are talking about wanting. It's like, she wants to die on set. It's like, all I want is an opportunity to play a human being that, like, I can try to inhabit and shed some light on their personal experience that might make someone on the planet feel less alone watching it. Like, what a kind of incredible thing to do with your life, you know?
Exactly.
And the more opportunity for that for people, the better. And I feel like it would really be great to start within our union, because we're the ones that should be doing that and honoring every performance possible. I don't care if it adds 10 minutes to the show. The program is for us. The celebration is for us as actors, and the change it can have for people in their careers. It's just, anyway, I will not talk about this anymore, but I'm going to write to someone. I've been thinking about doing this for years.
Absolutely. This is the platform.
I have friends who are like, I mean, it would be really great. The movie's so great, but I can't possibly compete with, and there's real legitimacy to that. Like, there is it's hard to break in, as Amanda was saying. Like, once you can be doing great work for your entire career before something happens, and then all of a sudden everything's changed, and you're 65, and you're
Plus, there's something about an awards campaign, as you both touched on, that enables you to talk about the role in more depth and more specificity, to talk about it with each other. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's really
It is
cool.
the only place that I've ever gotten to talk to as many actors as I have.
That's great.
It's the only place, especially on Zoom. Like, my life feels very small. My personal life feels very small in a good way. And, I've had more conversations and experiences, and there's been more storytelling from my peers than just, I know I can watch things, but just to be in real time, it's a privilege. So now I'm like, it's all I want to do, but I can't, I can't campaign
all the time.
It has to be the right, I don't know if I ever want to work again, really. No, I'm kidding. I want to die. I did say that.
And you meant it, damn it.
I meant it, but I also am scared to work again. No,
I understand. I think about this all the time, about, like, what does it mean to go to work again once you've had the really great blessing, because that's what it feels, and the privilege of doing something that most people go their whole creative lives without experiencing. Yeah. And I'm not even talking about the part where you're getting acknowledged for it. That's like this extra.
But it's being able to play
these people and having the opportunity and the chance to get to do this is, like, so lucky. And, like, it's just wanting to keep doing that. And yet I get a little psyched out personally about, like, I took a year off after playing Linda because it was just hard for me. It was a hard time. Yeah, I had a hard time, like, saying goodbye to her. It was really hard for me.
I'm sure
it was really hard for me. It was just really hard. I felt she died right before we started. I felt this weird, I don't know. It just was, the whole thing was just, let's just suffice to say, it was challenging for me to say goodbye to it. And that really made me sort of want to reevaluate, like, how do I want to spend my time and what do I want to do? And how lucky am I to be able to sit here as an actor and take a year off and not worry about my insurance, not worry about eating. I was very, very acutely aware of how special it is and rare and privileged and how lucky I am. But I do now, I'm just about to go to work again, and I feel this little feeling of, like, I'm just like, it's almost like I took too long off, because now I actually
That's not it. You probably would have felt that anyway.
Maybe, but I'm just like, what is it to act? What is it to what is it to be here on a set with these strangers who are now going to become my family, who are going to, like, see insides of me that I don't even show? Like, it's just a very weird.
And are you playing someone real or someone?
Not playing a real person, so that's good. Yes. But it's no,
but I mean, it's even hard. That's the thing. I think it's even harder. Our whole first day is being reshot because I was not because of me exactly, but partly because I had there was no, like I was lost playing this.
Well, great. But like, how wonderful that they're able to redo it, because sometimes we're shit out of luck and you're like, oh my God, that first day,
I know,
that first horrible day. I wonder if we had footage from both of our first days, like what our voices would sound like, what our walks would be like on our first day of the Dropout and of
worst.
I would love to just like right now put this on the SAG website just to be like, hey, guess what? Even things that ultimately end up working, boy, there was a moment where it was like, holy shit. And that, to your point about like having time when you're working in a limited environment or a series environment, having time to figure something out, and like you're working on it and you've got 10 episodes, so that if, you know, that first few weeks when you were figuring it out before you landed on the planet of this character or the story, you were like, oh, ultimately that will be 4.5 minutes of the entire piece.
Right. Very true. But is it always the first day that is
no
the most terrifying?
Not for me. I get scared as we're going the whole time.
See, but that's what it's always so interesting to me to hear from actors, is that it sounds like that never goes away. Or I've heard it said, if you do lose your nerves or you suddenly are anxiety free, then you shouldn't be doing it, right?
Well, guess what? I guess I should still do it, because I'm really just like...
Is imposter syndrome helpful in the life of an artist? Like, you guys know, every actor who's watching this knows, you're signing up for a life of uncertainty. So that, as you've touched on, that's part of it. But is it also this thing of like, do the nerves help in doing the role?
I don't know.
I think they keep you disciplined, maybe.
Yeah. But I read something, and I'm going to say this completely wrong, that you said that I thought was so great about like confidence and allowing yourself to feel good about your work. And to like, I do think there is something as actors that we are either sort of like, we learn this kind of learned behavior to always be like, I don't know, especially as women, I don't know. And then this idea that we're not supposed to be proud of what we're supposed to always make it smaller and make our excitement about it smaller and just kind of reduce the size of it so it's digestible for another person, so that they don't think you're full of yourself, or they don't, you know, and you're like, no, I'm just proud of what I did. It was hard. And so it's this like interesting internal battle of like, how much self-celebration do you allow, and how much like,
you got to have a little confidence.
You know, you want to have a little confidence. You know, there is a point where if you've been doing this for 20 years, you're like, I do think I know a little bit about it, but at
least for like what we're capable of as ourselves, like I know that I'm more capable than I ever thought I was before, but it's also like, it's bread though. I'm like constantly still trying to shake off that like need to make it smaller in order to not make someone else uncomfortable, which is,
I have that too. I understand that. Yeah.
It's still, but I gotta say, like having a daughter, she's turned me on my head, because just by existing, because I'm like, I want her to be proud of herself. I also don't want her to be a dick. So how do I manage? And then I'm like, I can just like celebrate my own stuff when I feel proud, and celebrate her stuff when she feels proud. It's like, it can be that simple, but there's all this stuff tied up in like having grown up in a way that I grew up, and like, and also society. And you're right. It's so like, I was only just able to say thanks like 5 years ago at like a premiere. Oh yeah, no, I mean, like what about all the hard work? Like why?
Right.
Like there shouldn't be any pressure. Even how I speak it, there still is.
I wonder if it's because I feel like if I think I say thank you, then I'm acknowledging that I agree with you, that I'm good.
And therefore
I'm uncomfortable making, like, I wonder if I'm not trying to, if I say thank you, I'm just saying I appreciate it, but I think I worry that I'm saying thank you. I mean, I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
I know. It's really crazy how good I was, right? I don't think that way at all. I'm too bit like, I have that instinct of wanting to apologize.
Right.
And I'm like,
and what about just grace?
Just about, what about just like grace?
Yeah, just grace. It just, what about that? Yeah,
I know.
There is a happy medium for sure.
There's gotta be.
There's gotta be. And it is about calibrating that. Can I ask you both about the fun? Because you've both mentioned this idea of having fun. And of course, doing having the opportunity to do everything you're describing is also the fun. But can I ask about fun in the context of, I mean, Amanda, I'm just thinking of that scene where you're licking the inside of the green juice cup.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's an example of like, how do you do comedy? It's been said that comedy is you, the character, are taking it deadly seriously and you don't know that you're being funny. But you, Amanda, you know that you're entertaining me by doing that.
It was just a lot of laugh. Those moments that were sometimes just created just off the cuff. And
Okay.
I really appreciated all three directors looking for those moments whenever it was possible. And then toning it down, of course, you know, there's like different versions of stuff, but there's just certain things that when people are alone, watching somebody alone, especially in front of a mirror, is like one of the most intimate things that you can peek into. And we just took those opportunities and ran with them. No, super fun. I mean, but it all depends on who you're working with. And like, what was your set like? What was it like? I'm sure there was a camaraderie, but you know, you guys had been doing it for how many months? 5 months, 6 months?
We did almost 10 months. It was a very, very long time. Yeah, it was a long time.
And I know that Sarah has said that the constant communication with Monica Lewinsky herself is just unlike any other project, of course, that you've done. That sounds wild.
Yeah, I mean, you know, she to her credit was always very wonderful with me in the sense that but she did have to kind of remind herself that I wasn't Linda Tripp because she was, you know,
wow,
which was hard because I also, you know, was always sort of mindful of not wanting to overburden Monica with my affection for Linda Tripp and my job, which was to try to get inside her brain, meant that I might have a softness for her that she may not be super interested in delving into, which, you know, I wouldn't want to. So it was an interesting thing to kind of calibrate, but the set, honestly, Beanie and I had a wonderful time together, like a really, really wonderful time together. The part about it that was hard mostly was that it was pre-vaccine COVID times. So we were working in a real, very few shows were up and running. And it just felt, it was a kind of dark weirdness at the time when we were shooting for sure. It abated a little bit, but we had fun. I mean, we laughed a lot. There are more outtakes of me ruining takes or of her laughing in my face because Linda was sometimes so ridiculous that she would, you know, Beanie would break. She would say that if she were sitting. I made her giggle because Linda was really,
I do think it is ridiculous. I think your two performances, and maybe what we were saying earlier about this category being like these real life women, they are ridiculous. And they are in these extreme circumstances, but they never fail to be believable. They never fail to feel human. I do believe that she would lick the inside of that cup, or that Linda Tripp would talk the way that she talks in a way that it's cartoonish, but it's real. That's what really happened. So
that's right. That is right.
That's the having fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is again, I said earlier that it wouldn't be the last actressy thing I said. But I really, I don't know. I love looking in the mirror and being like, who is that? Like, who is that? Who are you? You know, and like really kind of going, I can't believe someone is paying me to inhabit this woman and to try to figure out. It's like, I'm getting to do what I love. This is nuts. And who is this person? Like, it's a real, and here I am. I'm here. I can feel myself. But there was some real thrill for me as an actress to all of a sudden collapse my chest and stick my neck out and turn my hips under, do my thing with my mouth and the thing that Linda did, and drop into that thing from an acting standpoint was like an absolute thrill. It was just thrilling to me. It just made me happy in a way that was just so stupid. Like a little, 5-year-old on the playground, just like, I cannot believe I get to do this.
Did you feel the same way? Is this the furthest you've gone into like that thrilling? I mean,
Yeah, I think so.
Is this the most thrilling because you really felt like you were?
It was the most like it was like making facial expressions that I don't make and walking in a way that I don't walk. And, some of the things that would, that thing, and I bet you know this, when you're doing a scene and you're like, you may read it and go, I don't know how I'm going to do it. And, or if something is like in a real emotional reach or something really extreme. And sometimes these magical things happen where you're just doing it and it all happens. And it's like, you're not trying to cry. You're not trying to, but some weird, ineffable thing happens. And you just think, am I being possessed by, like, what's happening? Like, there's like a weird Invasion of the Body Snatchers thing when that magical acting thing happens where you are not in command of it in some way. There's like some other part of yourself that is taken over. And
that's
that's
preparation. And
yes. And I was just going to say, I think when you do all the
process.
work and you do all the stuff leading up to it, sometimes the you that is the you that operates everything in your body kind of goes somewhere for a minute, just hangs out.
And that's how you can have fun. Like
and that's where you're having fun, because you're not in there like chattering to yourself, like, well, that's terrible. That's
oh God, I know.
terrible. This is terrible. What you're doing is terrible. Isn't it wild what the brain can do while you're doing some insane dialogue or some crazy monologue, and you're in there going, well, nope, that didn't work. Nope, this is terrible.
Oof, that sounded
I'm hungry. That sounded awful.
You gotta keep going.
Keep going. Don't cut. Oof.
I mean, that theater, like I've had.
Oh, I know. Oh my God.
And I'm just like, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yep.
I'm freaking out.
I can't feel my hands. I can't feel my hands. Don't know what my lines are, but they're coming out of my face.
Is that person over there?
What are you doing here?
Who are these people? But you're really not saying that. You're saying it is. That's why also like theater is the best thing ever, because it is the scariest thing ever, but it's the thing you know most in your life at that moment.
Agreed. And you can be nowhere but like the demand of you being present is really, it's just like necessary.
That is really cool to hear. That is really cool to hear, existing in the existing that you guys are talking about. It's about getting out of your own head. And isn't that what we all want? to not
but you know what I can say is you only do it if you get to do it. Do you know what I mean? It's like really, not to take it back to the thing before, but the privilege of it is like the opportunity means you get a chance to try. And like, that's the thing that's so extraordinary about being in a position to get to do it, is that then you get to have this happen. And it doesn't happen very often. I don't know about you, Amanda, but it hasn't happened to me very much where I've had that thing where I'm like, am I Linda or is Linda me? You know,
that was it. This is
was where I was like, I don't know. Maybe I am Linda Tripp.
That's really cool.
You know, it's just like,
it's literally magic.
It's magic. There's something magic.
Yeah.
It's thrilling.
I know.
It's thrilling.
Just thinking about it is like,
I don't want to like ruin the vibe that the Dropout has right now, but I really want to do a Christmas special because that's the only thing Liz Merriweather said she would consider. Not really Christmas, but like a 2-hour. Wait,
a Dropout Christmas special.
Yeah, like just there's so much more. Especially Elizabeth Holmes. She's like, she had a baby, she got married.
Yes.
Went to trial. She's going to be sentenced soon, and so, boy, what about that story? I had so much fun that I'm not done.
I know. You're like, let's keep going.
But I think I am. I have to be, because why can't I just be grateful for this wild opportunity? No, I want to do more. It's just really hard not to feel, what's the, I'm
you're like, what is
like it's my
proprietary.
Yeah. Although I will say, if there is another Elizabeth Holmes movie being made, I am curious as to how that person would play it.
Is there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
there is?
There is.
This is the thing about doing recent history.
Is it already done? Has it already been shot?
No, they haven't made it yet, but Adam McKay and Jennifer Lawrence are doing it. It's still, I guess they're still doing it.
Wow.
So I'm like, maybe they'll do that next section, but like the next section's not the Theranos section, but it is just for me as someone who's studied her like enough
Right.
to know that I really want to know how her life just gets weirder.
That everything after that primal scream that you did in the last episode. Yeah.
Yeah, like what
Keeps
happens
going.
then?
Yeah.
What happens then? I mean, we know, but we don't.
I really should wrap. We really got to go. Can I ask you both for just like a one sentence? What is your number one piece of advice for early career actors? Let's say actresses. And then if you can think of one piece of advice that is the worst piece of advice you've ever gotten, like what's the piece of advice that you want to make sure that actors, they might hear it and they shouldn't hear it?
The piece of advice I would say is don't try to be anyone other than yourself. And I only say that because there's a beautiful letter that Martha Graham wrote to Agnes DeMille about keeping the channel open and about there is only one of you in all of the world. And if you block your instincts and if you block your receptibility, that's not a word, maybe it is, to how you experience things, the world will not have your perspective. And therefore you will be, ridding an opportunity for people to see something through your eyes, which is unique because they're yours. And I think the converse of that is that I had some advice early on to try to become more like whomever the girls were that were working at the time. And I did really try to, I don't know, talk like Juliette Lewis or try to be, I don't know, something that was a person who was working all the time. And I wasn't sure who I was or what I thought about anything. I still don't know that I do completely, but I was constantly trying to morph into something that I thought was what was desirable. So I try to think about that Martha Graham to Agnes DeMille thing all the time about just keeping this open and letting you be the thing that you lead with, because there is only one of you in all of the world.
Just based on what I've seen recently with a lot of these younger actors who I watch a lot of shows and I see so much incredible talent in, these early 20s, these people who have a big break and then all of a sudden they're like Insta famous. And I imagine that the world that, well, I didn't grow up in that and I never had like crazy fame at any point. I've always kind of just, I was, recognizable, sure, but I've never had to deal with that. And I think for anybody, whether they hit Insta fame or not, it's just, I think there's this weird idea, an assumption that you need a lot of people. You need to build this little mini society that travels along with you in order to be something, because you've seen it here with this person, you've seen it here with this person. It's like, that's not actually what is necessary at all. I mean, we, as actors, we search out, like, we like our movement coaches, which I don't have one yet, but I love my accent coach. I love my voice coach. I have these people that I surround myself with to a point, but then I go to set and whether I need them a little bit or not, like, I don't feel like I need them with me at all times in order to perform well. And I think the idea that you aren't enough is so insane, because if you want to be an actor, you're going to have to accept the fact that it's coming from inside of you, and you can get perspective and you can be trained and you can have all these support systems around you, but it's not like on the day you don't need to be held like, and I guess I'm just, it's very curious and very frustrating for me to see that, because I see how people feel like they're not enough, not good enough. So like, and that they need other people in order to perform. And it's just like, and I know, Sarah, that it's necessary at times to use our coaches.
Totally. Oh my God. Yeah.
But also it's necessary to allow to do the work ourselves too. And that's a collaboration. And then once you're on set, that you have the magic, it's in you now at this point. And these people don't seem to understand that that's all that's needed at the end of the day when you're really there. Especially on stage. Like once you're on stage, you're alone up there. Like all the, the collaboration is, anyway, that's not a sentence. God, shut up. I would say, no, sorry. I don't know. I can't be succinct right now. It's impossible.
I love the fact that there's no succinctness needed. This is really great. You guys.
There is. You said one sentence. That.
Well, I should let you both go. Thank you. Seriously, thank you so much on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation. Thank you for providing insights into your craft and into your philosophies. And I really think you've both given, not just here for this hour, but also in your performances, a masterclass in how to perform a real life person, a real life woman, and give it truth and curiosity, like you've both said. So thank you both so much. Congratulations on your Emmy nominations.
Thank
and
you.
the best of luck.